Hello, friends, and welcome to Belly Talk, a podcast made for bears by bears. This is a space to have deeper conversations about the bear experience and to help us all open up and be vulnerable and grow together. My name is John Fisher. I also go by Coach Cub. I am a certified health and wellness coach who's been working with bears for over a decade, facilitating classes and workshops and retreats. I'm very passionate about helping people find self-love and acceptance of their bodies. I'm also passionate about connection and community and overall joy. I'm excited to be here with my co-host, Johnny Bear.
Thanks, Coach Cub. That's right, I'm Johnny Bear. I am a licensed clinical social worker, a personal chef, a writer, an artist, and a multi-trauma survivor. I am here to help facilitate or co-facilitate discussions regarding everything within the bear community, particularly wellness and body positivity. I'm looking forward to getting to know the guests that we will be having on and also you, the audience. I can't wait to explore and take on this adventure one conversation at a time.
And we hope you enjoy this upcoming episode. You can learn more about the classes that we run in New York City and beyond, the retreats in Portugal and all over the US, and even find some fun merch all at coachcub.com. So I hope you unbuckle your belt, let that belly out, take a deep breath, and enjoy the show.
Right on.
Welcome to Belly Talk. So excited to have a special guest here with us, Alex Hinand. And hopefully, did I say that right? I always have to
Yes,
ask.
you did. Yeah.
My God, I was just telling you, I'm like, my dyslexia makes everything
Yeah.
super fun. But Alex is a queer content creator, focused on design and style, two things that I need a lot of help with. So this is, gonna be personally good for me. But first off, Alex, just like, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. It's already dark here, as I'm sure it is there. Which, I grew up in Florida, and even though I've been in the North or the Midwest for 6 years, the early sunsets definitely bug me. But it's been a good day. It's been a good day. How are you?
Yeah. I'm good. Yeah, it's also dark here. I mean, I'm in New York, you're in Chicago, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, and it's so funny we just reconnected because I just went to Chicago like 2 or 3 weeks ago for the very first time.
Oh, how'd you like it?
I fucking loved it. Like it was, yeah, like l late
Mhm.
October, early November. So the
Oh,
weather
perfect
was,
time. Yeah.
yeah, so the weather is still nice, but like for me, I have anxiety disorder. I'm like, it's a calmer version of New York City.
Hmm.
People were super friendly. I
Yeah.
checked off all the boxes of like all the food to eat.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I loved it. I'm definitely gonna come back. But where do you live in the
Good.
city?
I live Andersonville adjacent, in a neighborhood called Ravenswood. So it's a little bit north of North Halsted, the main neighborhood. Andersonville is kind of a historic lesbian neighborhood. It's where a lot of them lived, but now it's the gays have kind of moved up north as they've gotten priced out of North Halsted. It's much more of a homey queer feel, rather than a lot of clubs and nightlife. It's more restaurants, bars, a lot of really cute queer owned shops. It was voted best neighborhood in the or second best neighborhood in the world by Time Out magazine, I think in like
Really?
2019. Yeah, it's a cute little area. I love it here.
I did get there because I went to like there's a bear happy hour every
Oh yeah, yeah,
Thursday.
yeah, yeah.
They do it in New York and I guess they do it in Chicago. So I went to the meeting room, I think it's
Oh
called.
yeah, Meeting House. That's a fun bar.
Meeting house. Meeting
Hmm.
house, and then another day I went to Sofa Tap. Sofa Tap?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And there was like it was like a dog happy
Oh
hour.
yeah,
So
Saturdays they do their doggy days.
yeah, yeah.
Fun.
So it was fun. But Cool. Well, when I go back, I'll definitely hit you up.
Absolutely.
But it's interesting how we connected and reconnected because
Mhm.
what kind of prompted this was you could probably tell it a little bit better, but like someone was basically like cyberbullying you a little bit or like
Mhm.
said some nasty comments to you, and then you reached out to me because I was a mutual friend.
Yeah. I'm trying this new thing. As you said, I'm a queer content creator and had a few videos go viral. The most recent one was my partner and I were going to a gay campground in Michigan, and I made a joke about bears in the woods and um, very very silly, goofy. But of course, TikTok and Instagram and all those places push it out to the homophobic people who because it's engagement. Doesn't matter what kind of tormenting you're going to get in your comment section, because it's all engagement to the app. But I had on this particular video, I had a lot of specifically gay men that were, very heavily slut shaming and, a lot of comments about the spreading of STIs that's going to happen, and you're dirty, and you're this, and you're that. So I like tried this new approach of, I'm going to go to their profile, see if we have any mutual followers in common, and just reach out and, hey, your friend, you might need to call them in. I'm not going to deal with the bigots and the right wing people that are commenting on my videos, but other people that are in the queer community, we need to be calling them in when they're making inappropriate comments, when they're saying things, um, spreading misinformation around. Uh, yeah. Um, so that was how I reached out to you. This one guy left a really nasty comment, so I got into your. Excuse me, Kitty.
I
Um,
see a cat.
Yes, that's what she's never far away from me when I'm home.
Cute.
But yeah, so I dropped into your DMs and was like, hey, just so you know, this follower of yours is saying some shitty stuff. I don't know if you know them in person, but you might want to have a conversation. Um,
Yes, that's how I like, got you came onto my radar with your content because I wasn't following you just because it slipped through the cracks. So it was like one of those beautiful things to come out of like something shitty. It was like, oh,
yeah.
there's some like online hate, but now it like connected us. And then immediately when I saw your page, I was like, oh, you should be on the podcast. And here we are, me, you, and your cat.
Perfect. Yes.
So yeah, that was
Happy to be here.
interesting because yeah, I didn't know this person personally at all, and I commented and kind of did a little sparring with them, but it's really shocking to see like other gay men saying, I think he was saying, "Oh, you're the reason why Trump won," to you and to me, and I was like, and he's like, "Yeah, he said I hit on him once and it was nasty or something," and I went back, I'm like, I don't think I did, maybe I
Yeah.
hearted something, but I was like, this
Mhm.
is some really interesting like either misplaced anger or like internalized
Yeah.
homophobia. It's like
Oh
hard
yeah,
to
yeah.
diagnose that situation, but yeah, how do you so you're now dealing with it being a little bit more constructive, it sounds like,
Mhm.
trying to like reach out to mutuals and see if you can get
Yeah.
messages.
I what sometimes I have the time to fight the trolls in the comments, and it's fun and I enjoy it. But you're not going to be educating anybody or changing anyone's minds in a Instagram comment section. Um, so my thought is, if there's someone, if I can reach out to someone in their life to have a conversation with them, be it someone they know personally or somebody who they follow and have an internet relationship with, I feel like that can make a bigger impact than me just like clapping back in the comment section. And I
Yeah,
feel even if nothing comes of it, I feel a little bit more productive than just the anger that you feel of reading the comments and responding. That's just wasted energy on my part. There's other
totally.
better ways that I can channel that frustration into more productive things.
Yeah, I had a psychology teacher in high school. He was actually the only teacher I liked and that liked me. But he said once, it's like, if you throw shit at people, something's gonna get stuck to your fingernails. So it's like,
Yeah.
even if they're hating on you, it's like, yeah, if you're clapping back, it's like maybe it
Mm-hmm.
feels good for a moment, but then it's like, this is not the best
Yeah.
energy. And
Mm-hmm.
people are, I think anger is high. People are just wild out there on the internet. I actually had a guy, I've had a few people like fat shame me recently,
Mm-hmm.
one even like yesterday about that Marine in New York City who murdered a houseless person. And I think we were on the same side. I think he just misread what I
Mm,
wrote and then direct messaged me and was like, oh, you're supporting a murder, you fat fuck. And I was like, okay, I think we're on the same side, but like, why are you,
mhm.
like, why are you trying to fat shame me? And I had another guy do the
Yeah.
same thing. He fat shamed me on like a wellness post. And then he actually wrote me later in the day. Was like, "Hey, I'm really sorry. I can't believe I did that. That's not like me. I just want to
Mhm,
apologize." And I was like, "That's really cool."
mhm. Yeah, that same kind of thing happened to me. I had a like get ready with me that went viral. And those I always get some, you always get some fat phobic comments, unfortunately. But one in particular was a gay man, older gay man with like, and his profile photo had two kids with it. His two kids were in the photo, and I made just some comment about, oh, your kids must be so proud that you're an internet bully or something like that. And he came back, sent me a really, really sweet, heartfelt message of like, that was really inappropriate of me. I was just having a rough morning. I didn't mean to take it out on you. And I really appreciated that. And yeah, people have bad days, they have bad moments, they take out their aggression on a keyboard. As people who are so present and our online presence is ourselves. We are our brand. It's
Yeah.
really hard to not take that personally. But it's a good reminder that it's not always personal. When moments like that happen, when somebody says something inappropriate and they genuinely apologize.
Yeah, it feels like they're breaking the fourth wall. They're like,
Mhm.
"Okay, I know it's super mean, but like that's not how I really am." It's like, "Okay,
Yeah.
cool."
Mhm.
But all right, well, listen, I think it's good that like and I've talked to other content creators about this. Yeah, like the bullying and it's like we all kind of got to stick together and
Mhm.
support each other. So, yeah, tell me about that because, if you go on your Instagram and look at what you're doing, I know you're doing style and interior design and some like event planning and it seems like
Mhm.
you're like, a jack of all trades when it comes to
Mhm.
just like stylish cool things in the home and on the
Yeah.
body. So, yeah, how do you explain, what it is exactly that you do?
Yeah. I take great inspiration from the Queen Ina Garten, the Barefoot Contessa herself.
Hence your
For
name,
anyone who does
yeah.
not know me, I my online uh, username is the Bareback Contessa, a queer homage to one of my favorite people. So I take a lot of inspiration from her and her, Martha Stewart, people of that uh, time of creating a community in their home and creating homes that feel like them and are a representation of them. My like tagline, so to speak, is that I help people fill their homes with things and people that they love. So I want to give you the tools to find your own personal style, to find items when you're out thrifting that feel good in your home and tell your story. While also, learning how to be comfortable entertaining and bringing people over and building community in your home. As we continue to lose third spaces and spaces in the community where we're not just expected to go out and throw down a bunch of money. I think we need to be using our homes to as a replacement for those to feel comfortable having our friends come over for dinner, for them to have a safe space to come to when they need to talk about something or just need a break from whatever's going on in their life. Yeah.
Yeah, I love how you said all that, and I feel like we have I have a lot of questions and a lot of
Mhm.
unpacking of just all of it, but it just made me think about I just had, it's just after Thanksgiving. A lot of people do Friendsgiving, and I, after the election, of course, was just in a dark place and
Mhm.
was kind of like, should I do anything? And um, I'm a little bit over like Thanksgiving food. I'm like, it's good for like one meal, whatever. So I was like, let
Mhm.
me just come up with a weirder idea. So I created a Friendsgiving party, and it was like a
Mhm.
very silly French party that was not taking itself seriously,
Yeah.
and brought a bunch of people together and got like this whole backdrop of Paris, and my French maid outfit arrived on time. And it was just like silly, and it was a mix of like straight people and queer people, and we were doing karaoke and singing, and it just
Mhm.
felt like something felt very like political about it and kind of like maybe reminiscent of like queer scenes and parties during like, 1930s Germany or like wars or things where it's like it is so important for us to come together and still have fun
Oh
and be
yeah.
queer and be silly and like it felt very important. So like
Mm.
the way you're explaining just kind of like the importance of bringing people together in communities and spaces, like I just felt that like probably for the first time, just like the real importance of that.
Mm. Good. I'm glad you had that experience. It sounds like a lot of fun. My one of my best friends, her she lives in Maine, and one of her friends hosts a Thanksgiving every year, where everyone dresses up as their favorite Tom Hanks character.
Oh, I thought you said Hatesgiving like they hate
Oh no,
Thanksgiving.
no, no, and Hank, Hank, but just like
Thanksgiving.
a fun play on, obviously we all know that the, story we're fed about Thanksgiving is false, and there's so much hatred and murder and genocide wrapped up in Thanksgiving. But if we take that core of like, bringing people together, um, and make that the most important part, you get fun events and moments like yours, like your Friendsgiving, like the Hanksgiving. My
Oh
partner
yeah.
and I had a couple of his friends over, and like we just told everybody, make something that you remember from Thanksgiving, a dish that was important for you, for your family, for your, childhood or growing up. So that was a nice thing um, to have that. Um,
Yeah, I think you
yeah.
can like you don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's like you can hold on to the things that are important to you and bring
Mm-hmm.
people together. And for me, it was doing sparklers and singing Les Mis in a French maid
Mm-hmm.
outfit. With
Perfect. Yeah.
all my suburban Trump neighbors are probably like, what in the gay hell is happening over there? So, okay, that's all helpful to know kind of your, the things that you're doing, and it's it sounds like you've been inspired by Martha Stewart and Ina Garten. And I just um watched the Martha Stewart documentary
Mm-hmm.
recently, and I mean, I knew some about her, and I was like a child of the 80s, so I kind of knew
Mm-hmm.
about her, but not a lot. So I got a little bit more info of her, and then Ina Garten has always been someone I loved as well, but wasn't so into her, or like so um you know, tuned into everything she was doing. But I know does she have a book out now or one that just came out?
Yeah, she just came out with a memoir. I mean, she's come out with, a million cookbooks, but this is the first like story of her life. Um, and she's really lived a fascinating life. She wrote nuclear codes in the White House for a while before she bought her shop in the Hamptons,
Yeah.
and became this like food and lifestyle person. So she's brilliant. And what's inspiring, part of what's inspiring for me is that she bought the store um, in her or right around when she turned 30, and I just turned 30, and I'm like kind of on this pivot as well of like kind of reimagining what I want my life to look like and the future that I want and the kind of career and all of those things. So not to go down a totally different path, but like there's so much pressure to like get into this one lane and work your way up the corporate ladder and work your way on this. And especially in the gay community, the joke is that 30 is gay death. Um,
Oh no,
so to
I'm
see,
about to
no,
turn 40.
no, I know, like I feel like my life is just beginning.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And
like
that's how I
each
felt at
year just
30.
gets better. Each year just gets better and better. But to see people that I admire, make these huge pivots, um, is inspiring. And she, took her husband, who we all love. She took a break during their marriage for a point because he like wanted her to be a housewife and didn't want her to have a career and didn't want her to do this. And she was like, "That's not the life I'm looking for. If that's the kind of wife you want, I'm not sure if we can make this work."
Hmm.
Um, so she's a very independent woman who has kind of always known what she wanted and has made it happen, and has pivoted and has made an amazing life for herself. And I find a lot of inspiration in that.
Yeah, and what a disaster that would have been if he left her before this career change. Because now
Yeah.
he gets exactly kind of what he wants. Because it's like,
Mm.
Jeffrey's on his way home from New Haven on the train, and she makes hot chocolate for him that takes 4 hours, and he gets all the good food and all the brunches.
Uh,
Lucky duck. So that's interesting because I went through a career change going into my 30s and started doing this. I used to work in
mm,
politics, so it is
mm,
interesting these times. And I'm about to turn 40, so I'm also kind of in the same position as you of just like reflection and envisioning. So
mm.
as you reflect on your life, it's like yes, you have these inspirations, but like what was like little kid Alex like? Like were you into these things growing up, or like when did you start to understand that these are skills and things that were important to you?
Yeah. Well, I was a Food Network and HGTV kid. That was kind of what I grew up watching, and always wanted to help my mom in the kitchen. And she made sure that at least when I went off to, when I went off to college, that I could cook for myself and do the basics. But I used to be like painfully shy. My mom said that she used to, maybe a little dramatic, but she said she used to cry herself to sleep because she never thought I would make any friends.
Hmm.
Which now I'm a totally different, you know complete 180 from that. But I was very shy, very like, um I've always been chunky and hairy, and that's not things that elementary and middle schoolers are very nice about when you start going through puberty in third grade and are the only one with leg hair. And um so my early life wasn't, not to make it into like a sob story, but a lot of the things that a lot of us as queer, bigger people deal with. Um,
Totally.
as far as moving into passion or moving into style and design and those kind of things, I've always kind of enjoyed it. I dated an interior designer in college who got my brain thinking in that direction. But it wasn't until about, I guess, about 3.5 years ago, in the middle of COVID, I went through a breakup, which at the time was, my biggest, and is still my biggest breakup. We'd been living together for about 3 years. We were together for about five. And through all of it, I had just completely lost myself. I have no idea who I was, what I wanted, who I wanted to be, what I wanted my future to look like. So once I moved out and moved into the apartment I'm in now, being able to, decorate my own space for the first time, and make all of those design decisions and figure out, what I liked and what I don't. And for me, and I think for a lot of people, personal style and figuring out how what feels good on my body and what is necessarily, let me back up. What I feel great in isn't necessarily what's the most flattering. Um, and like
Hmm.
flattering is just, a word for making yourself look smaller, but that's a whole other side conversation. But in figuring out, what looks good on me and what I feel good in, I feel like personal style is like inextricably tied with our personal identity and who we are. And as I've like explored, tried to find myself again after that relationship, my sense of personal style has only gotten stronger.
Hmm.
So, for me and wanting to move into interior design and event planning, I want to help queer people find themselves as well in their homes. And, when we're moving into our first, second, third apartments and going through our second puberty in adulthood to like rediscover ourselves outside of the confines of the societal pressures we were under, that's where I really want to like come in. Everybody, whether you're renting and you plan to live in this place for a year or you own or whatever, your space should be a reflection of you, and it should be a place that you love coming home to, a place that feels like a hug when you walk in the door. So as I've kind of explored, those two sides of things, it's what led me down this path of wanting to help other queer people do the same thing and feel as good in their homes and in their clothes as I do.
Yeah, I love that mission, and I love the idea of like, yeah, kind of a second puberty or rebirth of some sort where
Mm.
which I think we all go through, and I mean, if we're lucky, we go through it because we allow ourselves to like peel away the onion of just yeah, the societal pressures and expectations and
Right.
heteronormative, viewpoints and things that don't serve us. And then we can come into our own. And I definitely have gone through that and kind of still going through it. But when you bring up interior design and well, I'll say clothes and style, I still have hangups on. Interior
Mhm.
design for some reason, it causes me so much anxiety. Like it's this
Mhm.
like I have such a wall up to like figuring out how to design a space. Like it's like a
Mhm.
psychological thing. I don't know if you've I know you do consultations and
Mhm.
you help people find their style, and I do want to do a consultation with you. Um,
Absolutely.
but even if we were to do one now, it's like what do you
Mhm.
do if you get on with someone like me and it's just like, you know, it's funny because when I was reading your stuff and looking through your videos, I'm like,
Mhm.
the anxiety I have about what you do as it relates to me is probably similar to like a lot of bears relate to like my wellness stuff or like
Mhm.
other people relate to like finance stuff. It's like I just get a pang of just like, oh, I don't know. Like I
Yeah, it
just
feels like something that's not, I don't want to say not made for us, but it's like, yeah, it's something that we have, that we feel like we're not supposed to know or understand, or that there's like this super high barrier to entry. Um, I totally understand. And I work with a lot of clients in similar boats of like, well, I don't even know where to start. I like so many
Mhm.
different things and I don't even know where to start. And when you feel like you have limitless options and you can do literally anything that you want, it's impossible to make a decision. So, there's a couple places I start with clients that feel similarly to as you do. I help them learn how to find inspiration intentionally. So rather than just, absentmindedly scrolling social media, and liking things when you see them, you're going to set, let's say, 10 to 15 minutes a day for a week or two aside to specifically look for inspiration. And you're specifically going to go to Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, whatever place you want to gather and save that inspiration in. But that is intentional time for scrolling just at interior design photos. And you're going to save everything that you like. Anything that speaks to you, you're just going to save it with reckless abandon for that week. After that week, we're going to go back to that folder, and start to find themes. So, what across all of these images is there a color palette that stands out? Is there a lot of pinks, a lot of greens, a lot of neutral tones? Um, is there um, is there specific like pieces of furniture that stand out? But all that to say, we look for themes, and then we take those themes and the things that really speak to us and compare them against the limitations of our home. And I think that is where people can really like start to make a decision. Once you figure out like frankly what's not possible in your space or what's not in its best interest, that's when you can really narrow down some of your decision making. Like, for example, my apartment really doesn't get great natural light. The kitchen does, which I'm grateful for, but the rest of the apartment's kind of dark regardless of time of day. So I've really embraced that and went in a much like cozier, moody direction across all of the spaces. So maybe you've got a awkward shaped living room, but all of your inspiration images have this big sectional in them. Well, unfortunately, that's probably not going to work. But how can we approximate that feeling? Um, that's kind of like my 3 step intro process,
Hmm.
to finding style and nailing down or narrowing down some of our choices so we don't feel that, like deer in the headlights feeling. That combined with I try not to think in strict design styles.
Okay.
Like I want my home to look, mid-century modern. I like glam. I like contemporary, whatever, and thinking more in adjectives and how we want our space to make us feel. When we're thinking,
I just saw, sorry to interrupt you, but I just downloaded your like free design form with like all the
oh yeah,
adjectives
yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
help you get started. So I just got
Mhm.
excited because I was like, oh, I saw that. And yeah, I think I love that approach. Even like before you're on the call, I looked at it and it's like, okay, this is something I can look at and kind of start to circle
Mhm.
the things that I like, and it's not like me freaking out about like what paint color to go on the wall and just kind of like spinning out over that.
Right. Yeah. It gives you more freedom too when you're thinking strictly in a design style. You can kind of pigeonhole yourself into thinking that everything needs to match that one style. Whereas if you're thinking more in adjectives, you're going to bring in mid-century pieces, you're going to bring in traditional pieces, you're going to bring in things that make it feel more eclectic and layered and interesting and have more of a story to tell.
I love that approach. And so is is all of what you picked up just like self-taught and self-experienced?
Yeah, for the most part, I've done some classes online and watch a lot of YouTube and a lot of, again, HGTV when I was a kid. Learned from, there's so many great free resources. But a lot of it has been, yeah, trial and error in my own space, in friend spaces, now branching into client spaces. Um, and I think that's a thing that I also remind clients is that, none of the decisions we make are permanent. Um, it can feel permanent, especially in, choosing a paint color. It feels like this big, overwhelming thing. And yes, it does take some time, but all in all, you can paint a room for a couple $100, assuming
Mhm.
um, you don't have the tools and you need to get some of the supplies. It's not a huge investment. Worst case, you don't like the color and you paint over it. Furniture pieces, it is a bigger investment, but there's ways to lessen that investment. Facebook Marketplace and thrift stores, and I think we get caught up in like all or nothing thinking of, I'm going to buy this sofa and it's what I'm going to have for the rest of my life, and it feels impossible to make a decision when you put that much pressure on yourself.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I do. It's kind of this like all or nothing or oh, I'm gonna do something wrong. Like I mean that's my own
Mm-hmm.
personal psychology of like, never wanting to screw up or just look stupid or whatever. And
Right.
it takes the fun and joy out of it instead of just being like,
Mm-hmm.
no, this could be an enjoyable endeavor. And I think, you're talking about like your spaces and your clothes being kind of a reflection of your personality or your who you are. It's like a lot of this I think is rooted in that first puberty you talked about where it's like when I was younger and I mean you said you were
Mm-hmm.
shy. I was outgoing, but I didn't have a clue really who I was and
Mm-hmm.
was very confused about life. And I used like, if I chose something to wear, I'd have my younger brother, I'd be like, you have to tell me if this is good or not. Like I could not decide, or I didn't have the confidence to just be like, I like this,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna wear it. And it still
Yeah.
kind of continues on. I've gotten a lot better at it, but it's like this, yeah, this kind of chokehold I have over
Mm-hmm.
myself of just like not allowing myself to just like flow and have fun.
Oh yeah, I totally get that. And you know, God, making any kind of decision used to be nearly impossible for me. Like my ex used to give me shit all the time because I couldn't even like pick a restaurant we wanted to go to dinner. If you asked me what I wanted to eat, I'd be like, "Oh well, I don't care. What do you want?" And sometimes I genuinely didn't care. But another part of me was like so afraid that if I made the wrong choice, oh, that's the end of the relationship. He's gonna break up with me if I choose the wrong restaurant. But yeah, there feels like so much pressure around these decisions. Um, and much like, building up that muscle to make a decision in where to go for dinner and what you want to wear, your design and your style is a muscle as well. It's not, something that you just are born with. It's a skill to train. And you're going to make some wrong decisions. You'll choose a paint color or a throw pillow or a thing that you don't really like, and you work around that. You get something else, but it's in that trying and it's in that muscle building that I try to remind my clients as well. It's something that it's a skill that you will develop over time.
Yeah, I like looking at it that way of just like building a muscle and practicing and not everything is forever and it's
Mhm.
all of this translates to everything. It's like everything is
Right.
interconnected. It's these are the same conversations I have with my clients
Mm.
about like health and wellness and body positivity and it's and a lot of it I think is just all rooted in like yeah, these the trauma from our childhoods, of especially being queer people. Um,
Mhm.
so, it also gives you an opportunity to kind of work on that and maybe start to heal, because it sounds like from your story, it's like, you know, you were shy growing up and you're also indecisive and
Mhm.
eventually you broke up with this boyfriend and got your own space and then kind of, it sounds like you kind of flourished, just came into your own of like thinking about like, what do I actually like and how do I want to design a space and who am I? And you had
Yeah,
that luxury and that time to do that.
yeah, it really has been like I feel like I really have come into my own in this space over the last 3.5 years I've lived here. In many ways, and like you said, it's all interconnected. As I've worked with my therapist on, my anxiety and how to lessen that, and getting on the antidepressants and working through, all of those things, it is directly related to like my ability to make decisions, my ability to decorate my home, my ability to be a good partner to my boyfriend, to be a good friend. All of these things are interconnected. Like I went to school for music, for clarinet performance, and I've recently gotten back into playing. And I had
Whoa.
a really not great relationship with my teacher. It was borderline abusive, uh, emotionally. Um, but like speaking of it all being connected, when I started playing and performing again, like so much of that performance anxiety was gone because I didn't feel that terrible pressure from my teacher in college and my high school band director, over me. I had worked through some of that. So it's all interconnected. And as you feel, I mean, your work as a coach is closer to therapy than my work as an interior designer is, but like sometimes I do feel like a person's therapist a little bit of talking through some of these things, because it is all interconnected. Being able to make a decision and being able to figure out your personal style requires a lot of inner reflection that I don't think a lot of people are necessarily ready for. Once you open Pandora's box, you can't close it, and that part of itself is very scary. Can be very scary.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what I'm facing. Yeah, I think to me, like it boils down to kind of like self-worth and just knowing like you're giving yourself permission to do something,
Mhm.
and that you can take up space and you can make decisions and you can screw up. And yeah, it is all interconnected. And this is an area that like I've done a lot of healing through therapy too and my work as a coach, but like yeah, anytime you look at a different area in life, it does give you an opportunity to kind of face the mirror and kind of look at what's going on and
Yeah.
grow and explore. So, and it's also good for people to hear because I think, if we look at someone's Instagram account, it's like, okay, I look on yours, you look very open and confident and you're showing people to do things and you have a style and it's like we don't always hear the backstory of like what people went through growing up and all the
Mhm.
therapy they've gone through and the constant work that we all have to do, to
Yeah.
heal. Hello again. So we've now hosted over 7 Camp Bear Hug retreats in Portugal and in different parts of the United States. And had the honor of bringing in guests from all over the US, from Canada, and different parts of Europe and beyond. And we'd love for you to hear from them directly. So we asked a few what their favorite part of Camp Bear Hug is. This first share is from Michael Q, who is a massage therapist in New York City. He came to our retreat in Portugal in 2024 and offered his Thai massage on site and also participated in the retreat. So here are his brief words that he wanted to share with you.
I'm so grateful to have such an amazing experience with such like minded guys and a small group, being able to touch and hold each other, have intimate conversation, all the things we actually really want in life.
Is it through therapy and all that work that you feel like you can be so open on online?
I think so. That's definitely a big part of it.
I'm
Part
the
of it's
same way.
definitely, the therapy and talking through and working through all of that. And part of it has been not so much a desire like strictly to push myself, but in, someone who consumes a lot of online content, um, realizing that there are not um, a lot of people and who look like me doing what I'm doing. There's really a uh, major lack of, especially plus size men's content online. In fashion, plus size people get the short end of the stick regardless of gender, but I feel like men and masculine presenting people especially have very little representation, very little brands, very little accessibility. Um, so yeah, that's also a motivation to put myself online, put, show off some of the, not so much in just like a showing off my outfits kind of a way, but in a source of inspiration for other people. My friend Peter, who's a leadership coach, talks a lot about that of, the more people there are like us as bigger bears, putting ourselves online, that's like one more person, or how did he put it? That provides more opportunities for younger people to see themselves online and see a reflection of themselves online that I definitely don't think I had.
Completely. Yeah, it's like you had Ina Garden and
Mhm,
although she could be relatable at some level, and I'm glad, she does represent bigger bodies, which is fantastic.
mhm.
But now somebody has, bareback Contessa and can
Right.
see themselves
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
in what you do. And is that why I know in your Instagram, like you do call out, it's like it's queer, it's plus size, like are
Mhm.
those terms important to you because you do want to be a role model and represent those communities?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yes. Part of it is, branding, as as you know, and making sure that people who are interested in those things can find me. But it's
Yeah.
also in like, yes, I do interior design, yes, I do style, but these are also, I guess I want to make sure that people know that I am a safe space for those identities as well. That um, I understand that experience and I am bringing my experience to the table and putting that really central to my identity and to my work. And it's because I am queer and plus size that I have arrived at the, place that I'm at.
Yeah. Yeah. And in terms of, again, things being interconnected and playing, it's like I know we talked a little bit about gender before we got on, or just your pronouns.
Mhm.
And, um, I'm curious about kind of where you're at with that. And do you see a connection with like just your post breakup kind of flourishing
Mhm.
and playing with your style? Does that also play into it of just kind of like, okay, also like what is my gender expression?
Yeah, it's definitely all, interconnected, and it's something I've talked with my therapist about of like, I have recently, um, not that recently, maybe like close to a year, have been identifying as agender. So I don't really feel like gender does not, I don't want to say it doesn't apply to me, but it's not something that I think of myself in terms of. I don't feel like a man. I don't feel like a woman. I don't feel, like any of it. But I also, definitely dress more masculine presenting and present more masculine presenting. I'm hairy, I have a beard. So part of like what I've talked about in therapy is like, well, am I, non-binary or agender enough to take this label and use it for myself? Um, and part of what do I want to say? That's a part of the representation that I want to give is that, agender and non-binary people can look however they want in any range of spectrums and styles. As I've started to kind of explore what agender and identifying as non-binary looks like for me, I think it's made me feel more like certain of my style and what I feel really good in. A lot of oversized, loose-fitting button downs and wide leg pants and those kind of things. Yeah, if anything, it's like um, solidified my personal style in uniform, so to speak.
Interesting. Yeah, so it's like your style came through, and then now you're kind of, as you're exploring your gender, it's like kind of
Mhm.
fitting and making sense, and kind of validating maybe
Mhm.
what you're already doing. And
Yeah.
I like that because you said, you talked quickly about quote unquote flattering and how that, yeah, is
Mhm.
meant to be like we should look flattering, and that means to look slimmer all the time. And I think
Mhm.
that's a lot of the like, fashion advice bigger people get, right? Like,
Yeah.
don't
We're
wear
all black
stripes,
and
wear all
Mhm.
black, and yeah, just
Yeah.
hide away. Go, it's like be
Mhm.
invisible.
Yeah.
So yeah, how do you feel about that? Like that kind of advice, and what has it been like for you to kind of go in the opposite direction?
Yeah. My style used to be very like I would wear things like as tight as they could be to like try and make myself look as small as possible. And all of these brightly patterned shirts and bright colors. And I still love color, but it was like, it felt like a way to distract you from my body. Like if I'm wearing this, super bright floral shirt, you're going to pay attention to that and you're not going to pay attention to what my body looks like.
Hmm.
So when I really, partly out of necessity, because I gained a good bit of weight during COVID and going on antidepressants and all of that, a lot of those clothes just didn't fit me anymore. So I had to really build a new wardrobe. It's I actually talked about this with my therapist last week about, you know, personal style and in like, wearing kind of going in the other direction of like super slim and flattering to I wear some like pretty dramatic wide leg pants, but like just in things that actually fit my body and feel comfortable. Like so much of my brain space used to be spent thinking about how uncomfortable I felt, like physically uncomfortable I felt in my clothes, how tight my shirt was, how
Hmm.
tight my pants were, how they were pulling in this place. And I really, there was so much just brain space taken up by that. And we were actually talking kind of about like, CEOs and their like uniform that they wear. Like Steve Jobs was always in the turtleneck and blue jeans. And in some ways, while I don't have a uniform in that sense, I know that when I get up to get dressed in the morning, everything in my wardrobe physically feels good on me. Nothing is too tight. Nothing is, um, going to serve as a distraction in that way that clothes used to. So in some ways that like has become a uniform for me. So part of swinging it in the other direction was just that realization of like, oh, I don't have to spend all day focused on how tight my clothes are. There's another life out there
Hmm.
where I actually have room to make a decision and the brain space to like choose where I want to go to dinner and make all of this personal growth. And then some of it it's evolved from there to like an actual exploration of different silhouettes and trying out, again, breaking out of those rules of like what's flattering and what's not, and seeing how I feel in it. I've taken some fashion risks that again don't feel great when I leave the door. I do feel a little uncomfortable, but like being able to push myself uh, out of that comfort zone in a good way, I think has helped me get over that fear of not making myself as small as I can.
Yeah, it's so interesting how there's, yeah, again, these areas of growth if you kind of check in and see what's serving you, and
Yeah.
checking in and being like, I don't want to wear tight clothes. Like, this doesn't
Hmm.
feel good. Like, what do I want to feel good in? And I don't know why, but like as you were talking, I just was thinking about my hair because I used to do the same thing. So much of my time was just like moving my little hair patch of hair around to be like, how do I look less bald? And like, do
Hmm.
people see it? Do people not see it? I was just like, and then eventually I shaved it off and
Hmm.
I'm like, oh, I feel fucking confident as hell. Like I feel so
Hmm.
good. So there
Yeah.
is, I think, something powerful about like leaning into something and being like, I'm gonna take control over this and
Hmm.
do what I want and check in as I go to see what feels right and what
Yeah.
doesn't. So it's really
Yeah.
cool that you're an example of
Thank
somebody
you.
who's done that.
Hmm.
It is really inspirational. I guess when it comes to clothes, yeah, like do you same thing like if I guess how do you help people find their own style or like Johnny Bear who can't be on the call today but was is a big fan of yours said something about like in a world full of Yogi and Boo Boo Bears, he tends to be a Yogi Bear and doesn't have a
Mhm.
lot of style and grace. So like, what are things that he can do to just kind of like bring him a little bit more flair into his environment and into his clothes? Like, are there little ways that you can help people kind of start moving in a direction that's maybe a little bit more fun or more authentic to them?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think especially like adding in flair. I think I would first, recommend some of the same steps I suggested for finding your interior design style, finding those pieces of inspiration, setting aside dedicated times to look specifically at fashion, um, inspiration on whatever platform you want to, and then seeing how you can recreate those things. There's so much, especially living in the like hyper consumerist, world that we live in. There's so much. The gut reaction is like, oh well, I need to go buy something new. I need to go buy this. I need to go. I saw this thing on TikTok or on Instagram. I need it in my wardrobe. And I think there's a lot of power in, again, flexing some of those style muscles of, okay, I really like this inspiration image of the outfit this guy is wearing. What do I have in my wardrobe that I can approximate that with?
Mhm.
How can I recreate this outfit in things that I already own, and really kind of shop in your own wardrobe. You're not going to buy your way into personal style right away. It's asking some of those deeper questions. It's doing a deep dive into your closet, trying on, doing the KonMari thing of trying on everything in your wardrobe and does it bring you joy? But alternatively, like, do you feel good in it? Is this something that, like, one, does it physically fit you well? Is it,
Mhm.
is this pair of pants too tight in the waist? Is it too loose? Is it too baggy? Whatever that might be. So does it physically fit you well? And then second question, is it something that makes you feel good? Do you like the way that it fits on you? Do you feel, does the color like wash you out? Asking some of those deeper questions,
Mhm.
when we do get dressed, is just one way to start flexing those muscles without immediately going and spending money on a new wardrobe.
I know. I love that you brought that up because it is, in this like fast fashion world, it's like full of consumerism and waste. And I actually have a cousin who is really high up in like reusable and sustainable fashion.
Mhm.
So I've learned a lot from her. But yeah, there's so much waste of just like, let me go on and buy this thing. But I like the idea of like recreating it in your own closet and then maybe like
Mhm.
going on. I know you love Facebook Marketplace, like
Oh
going
yeah,
on
yeah.
places like that and thrift stores and just like,
Mhm.
buying things that are
Yeah.
economical and reusing
Part
them.
of part of, I'd say probably like 90% of my wardrobe is thrifted. Part of that is out of, a necessity to save budget, to save money. But it's also, everything, or the vast majority of things that are made now are slim fit or European cut or aren't made for people with bigger bodies. And even if, I buy a shirt at Express or H&M or whatever, it might physically fit me, but I sit down and all of the buttons pull and it ruffles and it wrinkles and it is not something that feels good on me. So that's a big reason why I buy so much vintage and secondhand as well, is that these, vintage, I love me a vintage Ralph Lauren button down, but they're actually made to fit people with in bigger
What a
bodies.
what a novel idea.
I know it's yeah.
So that's a good thought because yeah, I had questions about kind of where folks can go with bigger bodies to find clothes
Mhm.
and yeah, thrift store sounds like a good place to start because you could just shop by your size and find vintage things that
Mhm.
are, maybe
Yeah.
meant for regular size people, quote unquote.
Mhm. The barrier to entry is much lower too. You can spend much less on a couple nice items, test them out, see, if it's something that's maybe a little bit out of your comfort zone. It can be a good way to test that without investing a large amount of money. I love I used to shop a lot on Poshmark, but their shipping has gotten really expensive. Um,
Okay.
so I save that for like very specific pieces. I know a lot of people who have done well, like there's so many like online resale places like Mercari or Vinted, eBay. But it really can become like a full-time job to like
Yeah,
find
yeah.
things that sometimes I have the patience for, for something like very specific. Like I need to get a new winter coat. I've my really nice winter coat that I thrifted a few years ago, I just have gotten too big in the chest for. So that's something I will spend some time to find a nice one online. But for like button downs and, yeah, go to your thrift store, pick up a few that feel good, that look, might push you a little bit out of your comfort zone. Um,
What about just like building an outfit? Like speaking to someone like me, like I don't have a fashion sense.
mhm,
It's also funny because like my dad is gay and he also has no fashion sense. So it's like, like the stereotypical gay knows how to do interior designing and
mhm,
fashion and like that just kind of eluded both of us.
mhm.
How like what are like the most basic steps? Just like how do I build an outfit? Or like how do I, are there certain not rules because it sounds like you don't really go by rules, but
Mhm.
like certain things to do to just kind of like start to figure out how an outfit can work well for me.
Yeah, I think I think finding some inspiration and trying to recreate it is one way to start when you have the time to like sit down and go through your wardrobe and find the things that can approximate this outfit you saw online. There's also all kinds of outfit formulas and things that people put on YouTube and whatnot. I'm trying to remember one that like it's big in the fashion girlies, and it's one of the I don't know one of the slim whatever she says, there's like an element of building your wardrobe that takes into account something more loose fitting, something more slim fitting, and then showing a little bit of skin. So maybe a wide leg pants, a tighter sweater, and then rolling up the sleeves so that you're showing your arms off, or some variation
Okay.
of that. But I think in yeah, I think not to repeat myself. I think finding some inspiration and looking intentionally in on social media and then setting aside time to recreate those outfits, and then also kind of like we talked about, interrogating the things in your home, interrogating like from an objective as we can be about our own bodies.
Mm.
What about this like looks good? What about this feels good? Not necessarily like what's flattering or what makes us look slimmer, but asking us, really interrogating some of those, deeper questions. I think, you can never go wrong with like a pair of mom jeans and a button down tucked into it. Um, if I can give one piece of slightly potentially controversial fashion advice for especially the bears and the people with a belly. I think try a pair of pants that goes above your belly and see how that makes you feel. We tend to, I know for me, part of it was vanity and not wanting to go up a size or two to have a pair of pants that comfortably fit above my belly rather than sitting at my waist. But when we do, when we're wearing pants at our waist, rather than I feel like I'm not making any sense by saying the word waist
No,
so many times.
no,
But
I'm going with it because it's like if I pick up my pants over my belly, it
mhm,
doesn't show like my belly line. And
mhm,
I think part of it is like, we live in a world where we're trying to be body positive and all these things, but I
mhm.
think it's like again finding our own rules. It's like
Yes,
you're
it's it,
allowed to
it.
cover that up if you want to try it out. It
Oh yeah,
doesn't mean
yeah.
you
If it
it doesn't mean
yeah,
you have
see
to
how it
shame
feels.
it. It's
Yeah,
like if I because in my mind, if I'm doing that, I'm like, well, I'm hiding my belly, and that means I'm not,
mhm.
accepting it. But it's like it's just playing around. It
Yeah.
doesn't.
it
have to mean
it
anything
can
more
make
than that.
you, it'll make your leg, not that this really matters, but your legs will look a little longer. It won't like cut you up into two really like square pieces. It kind of creates a, it can create a more even flow.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, that's one like easy suggestion I would suggest for all the bears out there. Try, see how you feel in that.
And I'm
See how it makes you
I'm
feel.
5'4", so like anything
Mhm,
that makes my legs longer, like I wear short shorts. I mean, I like showing off my
mhm,
legs, but it also
mhm.
it I realized after I came out and was like, oh, I can play around with fashion and stuff. It's like, those cargo shorts I was wearing when I was, in the closet or whatever, it's like those
Mhm.
make my legs look so tiny because they're up
Yeah,
against my knee, like down to my knees. But if I
yeah,
go
yeah.
up by like a 5 inch or 4 inch or shorter, it's
Hmm,
like my
hmm.
legs look longer. And I like showing
Yeah,
off them gams.
exactly. Skies out, thighs out. And like you said, I'm not really one for rules, but there are rules, not or suggestions or like things that, you know, while we don't need to wear high-waisted pants just because they make our legs look longer, like that is a fact. That is, or not, yeah, it is a truth. And that
Mhm.
might not be the kind of fashion that you want. That might not be the look that you're going for, but that is like a direction that you can go in. And something that I've been like shifting my mindset around is less body positivity specifically, like, and more like objectivity. I'm like, this is
Mhm.
my body, this is the way it looks. How do I want to, what part of my body do I want to like show off today versus what do I maybe want to hide? What sort of silhouette do I want to create? So rather than, kind of breaking out of the mold of like you said, if I wear my pants above my waist, then I'm hiding my belly and I'm shaving myself, and it's all of these, things that I'm working so hard against. And just trying to think of myself as like, this is the body that I have. I love it. This is the way it looks. What's like, I guess, not to take like the fun out of it, but being a little bit more pragmatic and objective about it.
Yeah, I like that idea. And I think we're in a time and a place now where like I think people are exploring their iteration and version of like body image, and there's body
Mhm.
neutrality, there's body acceptance.
Mhm.
I think body positivity has been kind of co-opted, in a way that kind of lost the essence of where
Yeah.
it came from. And yeah, I like having these other versions and hearing from people like you of like, no, I'm looking at more objectively. Like, this is my body, this is the shape.
Mhm.
How am I going to adorn it and figure out
Yeah. I
what I
can
want
wear
to do
different
with
things
it?
that make my body look different. I can wear things that make my body look different ways depending on how I'm feeling that day, and none of it makes me any more or less, body positive or any, yeah, like you kind of said at the beginning, your Thanksgiving or your Friendsgiving event felt political, even though it wasn't innately political. Like as plus size queer people existing, our existence is political. We don't have to like worry about whether the part that we're showing or not showing of our body is messing with that. Like just by
Yeah,
nature of existing, we are.
exactly. And I feel like a lot of this is just like, yeah, let's break the rules. Let's do what we
Mhm,
want to do. And that is seems political to me. And I think
mhm,
having the examples of people doing it like you, and also just like giving ourselves permission to explore it. It's like just because
mhm.
I knew I was getting on a Zoom with you, I was like, oh, I'm gonna put on a different shirt. And then I went in my closet and I was like, ooh, I can have fun now because I could like I have permission almost from this person who I'm going to talk to who like allows for people to explore. So,
Mhm.
what you're doing is really important. So I really appreciate it, especially for
Yeah.
like our communities. The last thing I wanted to talk about as we kind of wind down is community and the part of your business and your mission and passion of bringing people together, putting on events, creating community. I'd love to explore that. So what does that look like for you now? I know the inspirations that you've had of like people like Martha Stewart doing it, but like,
Mhm.
yeah, what does it look like in your life right now? And also like, how are you working on it with clients and just social media? And, we can kind of go through it a little bit. And I guess I'll preface that with like, a lot of what I do is experiential, and I've seen the power of community and putting on retreats and bringing people together. So I'd love to hear what it looks like for you.
Yeah. I will say it is the part that I've had to put on hold in the just in the recent past, just with a million other things going on. But my friend Courtney the Explorer, who's another queer content creator, they do all queer travel content. Which if you don't follow them, amazing content. They're up for Travel Creator of the Year with Gay Cities.
Wow.
But we used to host, or we hosted a few queer dinner parties. I followed this group they were based in San Francisco called, oh God, I'm blanking on what they are or what their name is. But they are three queer chefs that, during COVID when they all got laid off, were trying to build, not only make an income for themselves, but they started hosting these queer dinner parties in their homes that were, because they were all like Michelin star chefs, they were these impeccably crafted meals. But Court and I were like, how can we recreate that at more our speed? While I love cooking and love baking and love sharing my food with others, like I'm not a Michelin star chef by any means.
Mm,
But we started with those events. We got Kroger to provide the food for us. We wanted to keep it free, and we had a pretty good turnout for them until winter came, and then we put them on hold and um, hadn't started them back up yet. But that's one of the events that I would like to bring back, and I want to prioritize, a low barrier to entry for some of these events. So there's a lot of great queer locations that my friend Peter, the leadership coach, and I are going to put together some like speed friending type things. We want to host a journal night. There's a really cute queer owned stationery shop that just opened in Andersonville, Paper and Pencil. I don't know if you went in when you were up there. But we want to work with them to host like a journaling night with a prompt, and it's got a
nice.
certain amount of time to write, and then we'll do sharebacks. The thing that I really want to put together is I'm not sure if this is the name I'm going to stick with, but I'm calling it a progressive dinner party. Rather than a progressive dinner party by the name where you're changing locations for each course, you're having each course at a different table with a different group of people. So you're going
Oh,
to sit with one group, a group of four people for the appetizers, and then for the main course, you'll sit with this other group of people. Dessert, you'll be with this group of people, and then a wrap up like happy hour at the end where you can reconnect with some of the people you connected with, touch base with some of the people you may not have had a chance to. Um, yeah, so those are some of the ideas that I've had. We're definitely going to get them started in the new year. But you know, what I have learned in in moving to Chicago and trying to build my own community, it takes time. And
yeah.
it takes it, again, the reoccurring theme of what I've mentioned is that it is a muscle that you need to build. You're not
Yes.
you're not always going to feel like going out to this social event after work or doing this thing or meeting this friend for coffee. And sometimes we do. It is in our best health and interest to cancel, but sometimes we, like going to the gym, we need to push through that discomfort because we know afterwards we'll feel better. So I want to make sure the events that I'm planning are a low barrier to entry, not only cost wise, but are something that is recurring that people can come back to month after month to uh, build that community. That takes time. Having this shared space that not
Hmm.
necessarily is the same group every time, but it's the same type of event and the same type of people that or that those who are in attendance can feel um, feel comfortable coming back to time and time again.
You're speaking, yeah. Everything you just said is speaking my language, and I'm so glad I asked because, like, this
Feel.
is the focus of my work now too. Is like the bringing people together, the building of community,
Mhm.
creating spaces, fostering safe spaces for people to build community and explore. So I
Mhm.
love the journal night idea. I'm also looking to do some dinner parties and that type of thing. And
Mhm.
a lot of what I learned is through my retreats is like, oh yeah, like in the past I thought healing and meaningful work happens in a studio where we're putting on a workshop or we're doing a class, but
Mhm.
you know, the same amount of healing and the same importance, if even more, is happening in just real life settings of being at a bar with people or, you know, having a meal or exploring a city. It's like
Right.
it's also if
Mhm.
the intention is there, like your intention is with what you're doing, you know, and the people are self-selecting to be a part of it, it's like really magical
Mhm.
things can happen. We should collaborate in New York. You should come out here. We can do
Yes,
it.
my best friend lives there, and I have not seen her in a while, so I'm overdue for a visit. Um,
Oh my God, we should put on a dinner.
oh yeah, that would be so fun.
That
And
would be dope.
that's the kind of, what you're saying about like this, feeling like it needs to be this big elaborate affair. Like that's the kind of or what am I trying to say? That was the kind of entertaining that I grew up in. My mom would have, or my parents would have everybody over for the holidays, and it was always this big, stressful affair, and nobody was having a good time. And then my mom swore she was never going to do it again until the next holiday came around and everybody was back. Um, and where was I going with that? Oh, so that was what I thought entertaining was and what I thought having people over was. But that's not it. Having a friend over and ordering takeout and watching Netflix or whatever is a dinner party. Like this, it does not need to be this big elaborate affair. Your guests don't care what you're cooking and what you're serving them. They care about the community
Yeah.
and the environment that you are fostering, and that is what's most important um, in the space is the people who are there.
I love that. And yeah, that's what I was thinking when you were talking about like building community in people's homes. And
Mhm.
and it's exactly that. It's like a lot of the examples we see are these stressful things where no one's having fun. And
Mhm.
that's I'm also trying to do the same thing where I'm like, we can just be silly and have fun and it doesn't have to be some big stressful thing, you know? And
Right. Yeah.
I think maybe it was maybe Ina Garten. It's funny because now I did listen to this Ina Garten podcast about her book and I watched the Martha
Mhm.
Stewart. So I'm like, I'm getting some of those inspirations too of just like
Mhm.
what makes a fun dinner party. And I think Ina Garten was talking about the first time she tried to do it, she wanted to make omelets, but it was like she had to make an omelet for each person and she couldn't
Yeah.
talk to anyone and it was just a mess. And
Mhm.
it's like, yeah, it's really about just like creating a space and having a
Mhm.
shared meal and experience together. So
Right.
I love that you're doing that. We should definitely collaborate. That'd be so fun.
Yes, definitely.
It's me again. So this next Camp Bear Hug camper is Dan P, and he's now been to three Bear Hug experiences, one wine retreat in northern Portugal. He came to the New Orleans food tour with Chef John Harrison, and then he just attended our wellness retreat in upstate New York. So here's what he says are his favorite parts about camp.
What I most appreciate about Camp Bear Hug is the way in which a group of men, many who have never met before, can come together and in a few days create a chosen family, an environment of love, acceptance, and encouragement.
So we always ask the guest a few questions at the end.
Mhm.
Before we move into that, was there anything else that I didn't ask you that you think is important to share with our community?
Um, I don't think so. I already plugged my social media handle. Like I said, the Bareback Contessa across all platforms. Um, I offer design consultations. I offer some design packages. So just a little shameless plug there to connect with me on
No, and I want
wherever you
to.
can find me.
I was excited personally to see that because I was like, oh, this is what I need. And like, it is so funny because I've done coaching for 10 years. I'm like, it
Mhm.
is all the same. It's like, I need somebody who will be gentle and help me see things a certain way and to hold me
Mhm.
accountable. And, you know, it's like all kind of the same. So I'm going to be taking you up on that. And I suggest other people check out your content and also sign up for a consultation and other services because we spend so much time wearing clothes. I like being
Right.
naked, but
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have to
yeah.
wear clothes a lot, and so much
Mm,
time in our homes now more than ever with us working
mhm.
remotely. It's like, yeah, let's have someone help us create the style and the environment that is
Yeah.
going to best suit
Absolutely.
us.
Mm.
So definitely check out your stuff. So, yeah, the questions we like to ask. One is, we did talk a bit about community right now, and how you're helping create it, but what does community mean to you?
That's a good question. I think um, community for me um, is a place where or yeah, I'll just say place, a place where I feel like I can truly show up as myself, where I can explore some of these things that we've talked about, other things that we've talked about, or that we haven't talked about, um, have some, deeper conversations or not, but a place where I feel like I am not only welcomed but expected to show up completely as myself. Um, you know, um, what was I going to say from that? We all spend time in groups where we sometimes feel like we have to hide a part of ourselves, not for better or for worse, but it's just like, at work, I'm not the same person that I am in the bar, and I'm not the same person at the bar that I am at home, and all
Mhm.
of those things. But when I don't have to think about, the way or the masking or the code switching that I need to do, that is like that is the pinnacle of community for me.
I love that. So we also talked a little bit about like fashion and we were talking about our bellies and how we
Mhm.
could use them or not use them or cover them up. And the name of this podcast is Belly Talk. The community that I run on Facebook, it's a private community anyone can join. It's called the Belly Club, and it's a space for us to just, again, yeah, let the guard down, be ourselves, share and be open and vulnerable and be supported.
Mhm.
So belly is like a a term that I use a lot when I'm doing. For you, when you see the word belly or you hear someone speak it, like what conjures up for you? Like what kind of reactions and images and feelings do you have?
Um, at this point, I think I have like a very fun, like I don't say, I guess, kind of like childish reaction, but in like a good way, like a playful kind of way. If I'm saying belly rather than stomach, like I'm having fun, I'm in a good mood, I'm like, whereas definitely like probably as soon as like 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago, if someone referred to my belly, I would immediately like shut down and feel like I needed to hide and needed to, how dare you acknowledge that I have a belly. uh,
Mhm.
like it's a shameful thing. But yeah, that's kind of where my mind goes. It feels very like playful and fun and open and accepting and all of those good fun things.
Perfect. That's what I'm going for. So
Yeah.
there's no right or wrong answer, but I'm like,
Right,
yeah,
yeah.
that's it.
Mhm.
Thank you. And then the final question is, if we gave you unlimited resources to design a billboard, and this is actually interesting because I think you may be one of the only fashion kind of interior designers that I've spoken to.
Mm,
Um, how would you design the billboards? Let's say it's going to be up in Times Square, or it could be up in Chicago, or
mhm.
it could be in a queer neighborhood. Like, what would be the message that you would want to put out into the world? But then also, given, design, it's like, do you have a specific design or something, an element that you want to add to it to show off kind of your style?
Hmm. I think I would have to like, the first thing that came to my mind is on that more style piece. My main profile photo is like one, just probably one of the best, my favorite photos that's ever been taken of me. I'm on this gray background with like a bright blue shirt on. And that has kind of become my signature color. I inadvertently like worked that like cobalt blue into the branding on my website and my marketing materials. So it definitely have to be that blue and that probably that photo to show, show who I am and who they're hiring as their stylist and their designer. But I think we want to keep it simple. I think I'd stick to my tagline of like helping you fill your home with things and people you love. Because I think, at least for me, it's descriptive enough to explain what I do, but still leave some intrigue of like, what
Mhm.
exactly does that mean? What do you mean by filling your home with people that you love or things that you love? So hopefully that would, draw them to my website where I can get them in for a free consultation or a or
Yes.
whatever. Yeah, but those are would probably be my two main points: that cobalt blue and highlight my mission statement.
I love that. Yeah, it's like it's fun. I love that you went in the business mind because I have the
Right.
business mind too. Because usually, I guess the way we're asking is kind of like what message you want to
Mhm.
share with the world, but it kind of sounds
Yeah.
like it could be that image of you, and it could be the blue, and it could just be like
Mhm.
more of a statement of just like fill your home with people you love, or
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
type of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. I did go in a very business direction. And I mean, the message I want to share, I think, is that, we are all um not just worthy, but like everybody should live in a home that they feel good in, regardless of how long you plan on staying there. You should have a wardrobe that you feel good in, and that reflects you. And I want to help you find the skills to do that. I don't necessarily, if you want to pay me the big bucks to come in and choose everything for your home, I will do that. But I'm more interested in giving people the tools to make those decisions for themselves
Yeah,
and
I
find
love
and do
that.
that self journey and that self exploration that is required to really find your personal style.
I love that. And I'm kind of poking fun at the business side, but it's like, yeah, if someone's
Right.
gonna be like, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
give you a limited budget to put up something in New York City, I'd be like, yeah, I would have like
yeah. Like,
my image of me in a Speedo being like,
right.
learn to love your body.
Yeah.
It's like,
We
why
we
not
we
get
do
free
need to make money,
advertising?
unfortunately. Yeah.
Well, we have to, and if your mission, if you care so much about your mission and
Mhm.
you want to help people do this, then yeah, it's like that's how like getting someone to come to you and to like, invest in doing this with you, it's going to be a meaningful journey. So like they
Mhm.
should go ahead and do that. So I recommend they do that and they should go to what's your website and Instagram?
My website is actually I'll get my Instagram because my website's I'm retooling it right now. My Instagram is at the underscore bareback underscore Contessa bear or underscore.
Love it. And we'll
That's
put it in the
my
show
yeah,
notes.
perfect. That's my handle across platforms. I'll send you my and you can cut this part out. I'll send you my like link in bio stand store link that I'm using in place on my website right now.
Oh yeah, I saw
To
that.
put in the bio. Um, or to put in the episode description.
Cool.
But yeah,
Fantastic. Yeah, so everyone should go there and enjoy your comments and help us combat any internet hate we see with love. We'll just like
yep. Sometimes you need to call people in. So
yes, call them in and maybe look forward to a collaboration dinner sometime in
yes,
Chicago or New York. I
absolutely,
think that would be a blast.
definitely.
So, Alex, I appreciate your time. I love what you're doing. The word that
Thank
keeps coming
you.
back to my mind is just like blossoming. Like it just seems like you've blossomed into this version of yourself. And, I know 30 is a monumental age, but to me, it's like, oh, that's pretty young to do that. So you have so much to look forward to and envision,
Thank you.
as you go into your 30s. And I'm honored to know you and I'm excited to learn from you. And I will be signing up for consultations. So look
Perfect.
out. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I hope you have a
Yeah.
fabulous thing.
Thank you. You too.
Cool. Well,